found out the truth over dinner. My father poured my sister, Claire, another glass of wine, smiled and said, "You'll never have to worry about money again. The trust fund will cover everything." Then he turned to me. "And Eliza, you'll keep managing the vacation home, right?" I blinked, unsure if I'd heard correctly. I'd been paying for that place for years. Property tax, repairs, even the new roof last summer. Claire giggled, twirling her diamond bracelet. "Dad says I deserve it. You love helping family, don't you, Liz?" That moment shattered something inside me. I smiled, small, polite, cold. "Yes, Claire," I said. "I do love helping family." But in my mind, I was already planning what would happen when I stopped. And none of them were ready for it. I used to love family dinners. The clinking of glasses, the smell of roasted herbs, my mother's laughter filling the dining room. It always reminded me of home. But that night, it all changed. We were celebrating Claire's new business launch, another one of her creative ventures that Dad quietly funded. The table gleamed with silverware, the wine was imported, and the only thing missing was humility. Claire arrived late, of course. She swept in wearing a designer dress that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage. "Sorry, traffic was awful," she said dramatically, tossing her hair. My father smiled like she hung the moon. He stood, glass in hand. "To my brilliant daughter, Claire. The trust fund will ensure she never has to struggle again." Applause. Laughter. My mother dabbed her eyes with a napkin. Froze. "Trust fund?" I asked quietly. Dad looked at me as if I'd just interrupted a royal decree. "Yes. Claire's worked hard, Eliza. She deserves security." I blinked. "And me." He chuckled. "You're already stable. You have your job, your condo. You're our responsible one." Responsible. That word again. The same word they used when I paid off their property taxes, when I replaced the broken furnace at the vacation home, when I quietly wired money to keep their insurance from lapsing. I forced a smile. "So Claire gets a trust, and I get responsibilities." Claire laughed, reaching across the table to pat my hand. "Don't be so serious, Liz. You're good at managing things. That's your gift." Something inside me cracked. I looked around the table. My father proud, my mother silent, my sister glowing. And me, invisible. Dinner went on, but I barely tasted the food. Every laugh felt like a jab, every toast a reminder that I was just the one who kept things afloat. When the dishes were cleared, I helped my mother in the kitchen. She sighed softly. "Don't take it personally, honey. Your father just wants Claire to feel special." "She already feels special, Mom," I said, stacking plates. "He just made sure the rest of us know it." Later, as I gathered my coat, I overheard Dad in the living room. His voice was low but sharp. "Claire deserves more. She's not built for hardship like Eliza. Let her enjoy her life." Claire giggled. "Don't worry, Daddy. Eliza will always take care of us." That line, "Eliza will always take care of us," burned into my brain. As I walked out into the cold night, I made myself a silent promise. I'd spent years paying for their comfort, their luxury, their illusion of family unity. But the next time they called me responsible, they'd realize what that word really meant. Because responsible doesn't mean obedient. Means aware. And I was finally wide awake. People like to say family means giving without keeping score. But when you're the one always giving, the score keeps itself. After that dinner, I couldn't stop thinking about the word trust. Not just the legal kind, but the emotional kind. Because mine had been misplaced for years. I used to believe I was helping them out of love. When Dad retired early, I covered the property tax on the vacation home so they wouldn't lose it. When Mom needed surgery, I paid the bills quietly so she wouldn't worry. Even when Claire forgot to pay her half of the utilities, I handled it. Every time Dad would pat my shoulder and say, "You're the rock of this family, Eliza." But rocks don't bend. They break. The breaking started small, when my paycheck went missing into another family emergency. When Claire called from Paris crying about a declined credit card. When my father suggested I refinance my condo because You're so good with money. I remember the year the lake house roof collapsed during a storm. I wrote a check for $12,800, drained my savings, and told myself it was an investment in family. We'll pay you back, Dad said. Promise. That was 3 years ago. So when the accountant called me the week after the dinner, I thought it was about tax season. Ms. Porter, he said, we need to confirm ownership details for the property taxes on the lakeside residence. It's no longer listed under your name. I frowned. My name. That house belongs to my family. He hesitated. Not anymore. It was transferred into a private trust last year. A Clare Porter trust. My chest tightened. A what? He repeated it slow and careful, like breaking bad news to a patient. That night I drove straight to the house. The same porch light I'd replaced glowed warmly, like it was mocking me. Claire's car sat in the driveway. Through the window I saw her lounging by the fireplace, sipping wine, watching a movie. The house I'd maintained, repaired, and funded wasn't mine. It never had been. I stood outside, rain soaking through my coat, realizing the cruelest betrayal wasn't the money. It was that they'd all let me believe I was part of something real. But instead of crying, I smiled. Because for the first time, I wasn't the naive daughter anymore. I was the woman who finally understood the cost of loyalty. And the bill had just come due. I barely slept that night. By morning, the only thing keeping me upright was anger and caffeine. I started digging. Emails, bank statements, deeds. Anything that could tell me when the transfer happened. At first I thought maybe it was an error, something clerical. But the deeper I searched, the clearer the truth became. The house had been moved into a family trust under my father's management. The trustee, Clare. The beneficiary, Clare. The funding source, me. I found my own electronic signature on the transfer form. The date was 2 years ago. The week Dad had asked me to sign routine maintenance papers. He hadn't just lied. He'd used my trust, my literal trust, to steal my contribution. The rage came in waves. My hands shook as I printed the documents. My kitchen table became a battlefield of receipts and betrayal. When I confronted my mother later that day, she looked at me with watery eyes. Eliza, please don't make this ugly. Your father thought. He thought what? Snap. That I'd never find out. That I'd keep paying for something I don't even own. She whispered. You're stronger than Claire. You don't need these things. That sentence hit harder than anything else. It wasn't even cruelty, it was conviction. They truly believed strength meant sacrifice. That evening, while sorting through the trust papers again, I found something strange. A clause titled, Maintenance Provision 3.2. It stated, should any non-beneficiary contribute financially to the upkeep of the property, such contributions shall be considered gifts to the beneficiary and non-refundable. I read it twice, then 3 times. Every dollar I'd spent, repairs, taxes, renovations, was legally a gift to my sister. But buried deep in the appendix, written in faint legalese, was another line. If a non-beneficiary demonstrates sole financial responsibility for more than 3 consecutive years, they may request independent evaluation of property ownership rights. It wasn't much, but it was something. Door. Chance. That night I called an old college friend, Nathan, now a real estate lawyer. I think my father defrauded me, I said flatly. He asked to see the files. After an hour of silence, he whistled softly through the phone. Eliza. You have proof of misrepresentation. It's not a clear win, but it's leverage. Enough to take it back. Maybe not yet, he said. But enough to make them sweat. For the first time in months I felt alive. Because power doesn't come from revenge. It comes from knowing you can choose when to strike. Nathan met me downtown the next morning. He was calm, methodical, the opposite of the storm brewing inside me. We sat in a quiet cafe surrounded by chatter I could barely hear. He spread the documents across the table. Your father's trust is airtight. But his behavior, signing on your behalf, transferring funds without disclosure, that's unethical. You'd lose in civil court, but He paused, tapping the clause I'd found. You can use this to negotiate. Negotiate what? Yes. Freedom, he said simply. Cut them off. Stop paying. Stop helping. Let the trust drown under its own greed. The idea felt dangerous, liberating. That night, my father texted as if on cue. Mortgage due. Please send the usual. I stared at the screen. My hands didn't shake this time. I simply wrote back. No. A minute later my phone rang. His voice thundered through the speaker. Eliza, what's this attitude? You know your mother depends on you. No, I said again. She depends on the lies you've built. I'm done funding them. He sputtered. You'll regret this. Maybe, I replied. But not as much as you will. Then I hung up. The silence afterward was electric. For the first time, my life wasn't tethered to their debts or expectations. I started cutting every cord, canceled automatic transfers, stopped paying taxes on the vacation house, and redirected every cent toward my own account. Days passed. Then weeks. The first cracks appeared fast. The property manager called asking about overdue bills. My father left voicemails filled with fury. Claire's tone turned from arrogance to panic. Eliza, you're being selfish, she screamed over the phone. Do you want to see us lose the house? I smiled quietly. It's your house, remember? You'll figure it out. When I hung up, I expected guilt. Instead, I felt weightless. Because for years, I'd been the invisible foundation holding up their comfort. Now I'd let the house crumble. And only then would they realize who actually built it. Silence can be louder than words. Especially when it comes from the person everyone's used to depending on. When I stopped sending the payments, the silence lasted exactly 6 days. On day 7, my father called 13 times. I didn't answer once. Then my mother left a voicemail, her voice trembling. Eliza, sweetheart, your father's frustrated. He says the property taxes are due again and the mortgage. Well, it's complicated. Please call back. Complicated. That was her polite way of saying the house of cards is collapsing. I didn't call back. Instead, I sat at my kitchen table with a cup of coffee, watching the morning sunlight spill across the floor. For the first time in years, my money was mine. The weight of obligation had lifted. But with every sip, a mix of guilt and relief churned in my chest. Could I really let them sink? Then I remembered the dinner. Laughter. The trust fund. The smug way my father had said, "You'll keep managing the vacation home, right?" Could let them sink. By week 2 the cracks were showing. Claire's social media painted the same perfect image. Sunsets, champagne, grateful posts. But behind the scenes, things were unraveling. The property caretaker quit. The electricity bill went unpaid. Their fancy lakeside dinners were replaced with desperate calls to me. Claire's crying every night, my mother said once. She's not used to stress. Then maybe she should learn, I said, my tone calm but firm. You told me I was strong. Let her be strong too. My father finally called from a blocked number. His voice was cold steel. I don't know what you're trying to prove, but this family needs that house. You're punishing everyone for your jealousy. Jealousy. The word made me laugh bitterly. Dad, I paid for that house while you turned it into her trophy. You betrayed me, not the other way around. He sighed. You've changed. I finally learned, I said and hung up. A few days later, I saw a post from Clare. When people show their true colors, believe them. Some family only helps when it benefits them. The comments were flooded with sympathy. You deserve better, Queen. Some siblings are just bitter. I didn't respond. I didn't have to. Because for the first time my silence was the response. Then one night I got an unexpected email. The subject line read, Urgent. Overdue notice. Porter family vacation property. The attached balance showed $64,500 in unpaid taxes and maintenance fees. I stared at the screen, realizing the truth. The entire facade was crumbling faster than they could rebuild it. For years, my money had kept their world spinning. And now, without me, it had stopped completely. It wasn't revenge. It was reality. But just as I thought I could finally rest, a notification popped up on my phone. Claire had tagged me in a new post. Family can stab you in the back while smiling to your face. The photo was of the vacation home. Dark, empty, and foreclosed. And suddenly I knew. This wasn't over. Because when people like Claire lose power, they don't surrender. They lash out. The next morning my phone buzzed nonstop. Texts, mentions, screenshots, all pointing to one thing. Claire had gone viral. Her teary-eyed video played across my feed. My sister Eliza cut us off after Dad's heart condition worsened. We're losing our home because of her. I never wanted to share this, but betrayal hurts deepest when it's family. Fake tears. Manipulated lighting. Perfectly rehearsed pain. Comments poured in by the thousands. What kind of monster abandons her parents? You can tell she's the jealous type. I watched the whole video in silence, my hands trembling. Not from sadness, but from disbelief. Claire wasn't just trying to ruin me. She was rewriting the story entirely. Within hours, local blogs picked it up. Family feud over fortune. Sister turns back on ailing parents. My inbox filled with hate mail. My workplace HR even called. Eliza, this viral thing, do you need time off? I almost laughed. Time off from what? From being scapegoated. But while the internet raged, I stayed calm. Because Nathan, my lawyer friend, was still digging. That evening he called. You might want to sit down, he said. Your father just filed an amendment to the trust. I braced myself. What kind of amendment? He's added a clause, Nathan said grimly. If you refuse financial contribution for 1 year, Claire inherits everything. All assets, including family heirlooms and personal effects. I sank into my chair. He's weaponizing my independence. Nathan's tone softened. He's trying to control you the only way he knows how, through guilt. I felt the anger rise again. Then he's about to learn what guilt feels like. The next day, a courier arrived at my office. Inside the envelope was a handwritten note from Dad. You've embarrassed this family. You've turned on your sister. This will be your regret. Tucked beneath it was something worse. A newspaper clipping of my own company photo, captioned with, "Daughter abandons parents amid family crisis." He had fed my humiliation to the press himself. That night, I stood in my apartment, staring at the city skyline. For years, I'd held this family together. And now, they were trying to destroy me for stepping away. But I wasn't going to hide anymore. I opened my laptop, drafted a message to a journalist who'd covered Claire's story, and attached a few forgotten files Nathan had helped recover. Documents proving how much I'd paid into the trust, proof of my father's forged signatures, and bank receipts showing Claire's misuse of funds. The truth wasn't just on my side. It was documented. Before sending it, I whispered, "You want public? Let's go public." And I hit send. The following week felt like quiet before a storm. Eerie, tense, electric. Claire's fake sob story dominated online spaces. But slowly, new headlines started appearing. Sources question validity of Porter Trust Fund. Leaked bank records suggest sister misused family funds. The tide was turning. Then Nathan called again. "We found something you need to see." He emailed me scanned files, the second trust amendment. Dated a few months before the viral fallout. Signed by my father but drafted by someone else. It included a new clause. All future property taxes and upkeep shall be declared under Eliza Porter's tax identification to maintain family benefit continuity. My breath caught. That's my ID. Nathan's voice hardened. Exactly. He's been claiming tax deductions under your name, illegally. That's fraud. It hit me all at once. The reason he'd kept me paying for so long wasn't just manipulation. It was to cover up his own crimes. "Can we use this?" Yes. "Oh, Eliza," he said, almost laughing. "This is the nail in his coffin. That night, I printed every document, every receipt, and placed them neatly in a binder labeled Truth. Meanwhile, Claire posted yet another video, crying in the same staged living room saying, "We've lost everything because Eliza hates us." The comments had shifted now. Wait, what's this about tax fraud? Didn't her sister pay for that house for years? This sounds fishy. I didn't respond. The truth was doing my work for me. A few days later, the inevitable happened. My father called. His voice a mix of fury and fear. "What have you done?" "They're auditing me." "Nothing you didn't do to yourself," I said quietly. He went silent. For the first time, I heard something I'd never heard from him before. Not anger. Not arrogance. Panic. "Eliza," he whispered. "We could lose everything." I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. "You already did, Dad," I said softly. "You just didn't realize it yet." The following morning, the IRS officially froze his assets pending investigation. The family trust was under federal review. Claire's influencer contracts vanished overnight. The perfect family facade. But as I watched their world crumble from my quiet apartment, I didn't feel triumphant, just free. Because sometimes winning doesn't feel like victory. Feels like breathing for the first time in years. It started with a single headline that changed everything. Porter Family Trust under federal investigation. I was drinking coffee when the alert pinged on my phone. The photo beneath it was of my father, face pale, jaw tight, leaving a courthouse. Claire followed behind him, wearing sunglasses and feigned innocence. The perfect picture of privilege cracking in public. The silence that followed was deafening. For once, no one was calling me. By noon, the story had spread everywhere. Reporters camped outside their gated neighborhood. Former family friends whispered about embezzlement and tax evasion. Even their lawyer resigned. I didn't celebrate. I didn't post. I didn't even smile. I just exhaled. Because this wasn't revenge. It was justice. Nathan called that evening. "The IRS confirmed your name was used illegally for deductions. You'll be cleared. But your father's facing penalties, heavy ones." I swallowed. "How bad?" He hesitated. "Enough to lose the trust. And maybe the house." A strange calm settled over me. Then it's about time they learned what real loss feels like. That weekend, Claire broke her silence. Her once glamorous Instagram feed went dark, replaced with a shaky video. "I didn't know about the taxes," she said between sobs. "Dad just told me Eliza was exaggerating. I'm sorry." The internet didn't buy it. For once, people saw through her performance. I received hundreds of messages. Not hate this time but support. Strangers writing, "You did the right thing. You're the strong one." Should have felt good. Didn't. Just felt over. Then Sunday morning there was a knock on my door. When I opened it, my father stood there. Older. Smaller. Without the air of authority he used to carry. He didn't yell. He didn't accuse. He just said quietly, "You ruined us, Eliza." I looked at him. The man who raised me. The man who had turned my loyalty into his weapon. "No, Dad," I said softly. "You ruined yourself. I just stopped pretending I couldn't see it." He stared at me, eyes glassy, then turned to leave. For the first time, I didn't feel the urge to stop him. That evening I walked by the lake, the one that mirrored the house I'd once called ours. I watched its reflection ripple and fade, and realized something profound. Sometimes family doesn't fall apart because of hate. Sometimes it falls apart because one person finally stops enabling everyone else's lies. And in that quiet silver-blue dusk, I understood. I hadn't lost my family. I'd simply outgrown them. 2 months passed before I saw Claire again. She showed up unannounced. Makeup smudged, hair tangled, looking nothing like the polished image she'd spent years curating. "Eliza, please," she began, standing in my doorway. "Dad's losing everything. They're seizing the house. The lake property, too." I didn't answer right away. I just studied her. This was the sister who once told the world I'd abandoned our parents. The same sister who'd toasted champagne with my money. "I can't stop it," I said finally. She stepped closer, her voice breaking. "You can. You could talk to the investigators. Tell them you don't want charges. You could save him." "And who saved me when you all signed that trust?" Yes. Her lips trembled. "We didn't mean to hurt you." I almost laughed. "You meant to use me. That's worse." She wiped her eyes. "I thought Dad was protecting us." "From what?" I said sharply. "Accountability." She looked down. "He's sick, Eliza." Something flickered in my chest, a brief ache of pity. Then I remembered the sleepless nights, the years of being the responsible one, the humiliation of being publicly branded the villain. I took a deep breath. "Claire, I'm done saving people who only show up when they need rescuing." Tears streamed down her cheeks. "You're cold." "No," I said quietly. "I'm free." She turned and left, slamming the door behind her. I stood there for a long moment, listening to the echo fade. That night, Nathan called again. "They've begun liquidation. Once the audits finish, your name's cleared." "You're in the clear, Eliza." "Good," I said softly. "Now I can finally start over." A few days later I visited the lake, just to see it one last time. The house was empty, windows boarded, grass overgrown. But I saw something beautiful in the decay. It wasn't my loss. It was theirs. I whispered to the wind. This was never my home. It was my lesson. And for the first time I felt peace. 6 months later, I received a letter from the county clerk. The lake house, the same property my family once used as their shrine of favoritism, was officially up for auction. Nathan called almost instantly. "You should buy it." I hesitated. Why would I want that place? He smiled through the phone. "Because sometimes victory isn't about vengeance. It's about rewriting the ending." And so I did. 3 weeks later, I stood at the auction house, heart pounding, as the auctioneer read the final bid. "Sold to Ms. Eliza Porter." Applause rippled through the small crowd. My hands shook as I signed the papers. The house was mine legally, fully, finally. When I walked through its doors again, dust floated through the golden light. The air smelled of cedar and rain. I touched the walls, the same ones I'd once painted, repaired, and resented. But this time they belonged to me. I renovated slowly, stripped away the marble Clare installed, replaced the fancy chandeliers with warm lighting, reopened the kitchen my mother always said was too small. Every nail I hammered, every corner I painted, felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. When the work was done, I invited no one. Just me, a cup of tea, and the lake shimmering outside. A few weeks later, a small envelope arrived in the mail. No return address, just my father's handwriting. "You were right, Eliza. You didn't owe us anything. I see that now." No apology, no request, just acceptance. I folded the letter and placed it in a drawer, a reminder that peace doesn't always come from forgiveness. Sometimes it comes from closure. As I sat on the porch that evening, watching the sunset ripple across the lake, I realized something profound. For years I thought love meant carrying others. Now I knew love could also mean letting go. The house wasn't a monument to betrayal anymore. It was proof of survival. And as the night settled in, I whispered to the quiet water. "This time it's mine. Every inch of it." If you've ever been the responsible one who carried everyone until you broke, remember, walking away isn't cruelty. It's courage. Comment, "I choose peace," if you've ever had to let go to heal. Like and subscribe for more cinematic real-life stories.